Speaking of Tim, should we get to it?
Why don't we? I'm excited to have Tim here tonight.
So every other, I guess, November.
The democracy part.
Don't roll it yet, but rewind it rewind the tape because we're going to go to that. This past November, Tim said his final bow.
Yeah.
For the council, and they installed the new council members. And Tim had a very eloquent, as usual, outgoing speech, and I just thought we'd play a few moments of that to see.
Tim's kind of been known for his eloquence.
Yeah, Tim's very
among other things. So,
go ahead and roll it.
Let's roll it.
And it says on the ballot you have to put down your occupation or something like that, and people always put the strangest things on there. So I said, so what do people write on this? And she said, well, just don't put visionary. and you have to imagine the look on Emma's face, because it was like one of those wry looks, like just don't be a visionary. Okay, so I said, but I want to be a visionary, and she just laughed at me in that sarcastic grin that she had. And she had a perfect grasp of what electeds contributed to the city, and she never let me get away with the slightest delusion of grandeur or anything else. And I think we do miss something. But we're there for the democracy part, and that's an important part. And we should never let our efficiency, our desire for efficiency and for good, this is an important institution that needs to run smoothly, but we should never let running smoothly get in the way of the democracy part, which I think is a crucial part. I wrote a poem for the people that work for the city. It's called On Public Service. I will read the poem, even though it's only got one really good line in it. Maybe you can pick it out. But the rest of it is meant sincerely. The city full of lives that you have built, the peace and the pleasures that you have given, the safety, the comfort, the confidence, the knowledge, the help, the history, the futures, the friendship, the leadership, attention, the faith and the hope, the play and the health and the simple rules, the patient helping, the joy of being there, the making from nothing, and the picking up after. There are other ways to spend a life, but none more loving or more honorable.
Those are the words of Tim Fitzmaurice on his last day on City Council, and we'd like to welcome Tim to the stage.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure. After leaving the City Council, the next step is to be on with Chip and Jeff.
This is pretty
So what? Yeah,
City Council was just preparation for this.
That's right. Right. You just have to go through that nightmare.
Training.
That nightmare then prepares you for this.
And then here you are. You've made it. Congratulations.
You told me this was a highbrow experience, but I can see I was misled.
No, eyebrow
experience. Well, my wife says I need to trim those.
Okay, fine.
Well, I have been doing City Council meetings for years and observing just from the back TV room. And that was pretty, I would say, typical of what I've observed is the thoughtfulness that you seem to have always kept on the council. And you've always been very articulate, thoughtful, well-spoken.
Right. Well, life is about 90% preparation.
That's so.
But you should know a lot about. I watched you guys prepare this show just before it started, so I thought you were really an inspiration to me, because I can understand, that you really understand that.
But anyways, I was sorry to see you go, because I really, if I may kiss a little butt, say that you were always certainly one of my favorite council members, and I always enjoyed watching you and always respected your viewpoints on most issues, and so I feel like it's a loss.
Well, I certainly have had to rearrange my whole life as a result of leaving. It's tremendous. It takes up a tremendous amount of time, and it is a burden on a person's life. I bumped into Cynthia Matthews, and she said, well, what's it like being off the council? And I said, what was I thinking? Being on the council is an overwhelming experience.
So what do you do on Tuesday nights?
I know. What do I do on Tuesday nights? Well, I do, I can drive my father to the hospital, or I can do things. I can actually do human things, or stay home and watch the council if I want for a little while.
Do you ever?
It's only been 2 meetings so far, and so I've actually caught about an hour of one of them. I never watched the meetings before. I couldn't stand it's very difficult to watch yourself. But anyway, so I couldn't really tolerate that very well.
So now can you tolerate it? Now that you
I think I could, and I look forward to looking at some of the meetings. They have the pro-choice city thing is coming up. I can't wait for that because Lynn Robinson has said she won't vote for anything that doesn't support the community. And I think that when Mark Premack was making that stand, I think you might remember Mark Premack. He made the same stand, right? You won't vote on anything that isn't germane in some way.
Right.
And then when issues came up for him, because like he's very devoted to the Roma issue, and those kinds of issues came up for him. They made it very difficult for him.
What are your thoughts on that? When council members such as Lynn or Mark take that stand?
Well, my first thought is a council member should vote honestly on any issue that's put before them. And you really don't get to choose. If I were to choose which issues I don't want to vote on, and which issues I did not think were germane to benefiting the city, I would choose many issues that I'd like to not see on the agenda. But my first response is you just have to, you're given a certain agenda, and like it or not, and whether you're going to collect someone's disdain or not, you have to vote on it. You have to make up your mind. There's no half measure, and our particular rules don't provide for the ability to just say I choose not to vote.
Now, and for some of the examples were like the stance the city took on the war in Iraq, impeachment of Bush.
Well, I brought up the impeachment. That was one of my last hurrahs, was to try to put the impeachment on the ballot. And I was unhappy that the city didn't put it on the ballot. I thought it would have brought a lot of young voters to the election. That was my primary reason for putting it on the ballot. I thought that's what we needed to do, and give people a way of talking about it. And I'm absolutely convinced it would have been the right thing to do now.
And aren't these things usually put on the agenda as a response from the community?
Sure.
It's community initiated.
Yeah, once in a while I think a council member overreaches, I suppose, and decides there's an issue that's really important to them and they'd like to bring it. But even in that case, you're a person that's been elected by some thousands of the members of the community. I think you have certain justification for bringing things forward, even if they're just important to you. Like for instance, the Roma issue, the way people are treated across the world that are referred to as gypsies and all that. That's an issue that's highly sensitive, and why wouldn't somebody want to comment on that, even though it's not germane to the city?
It always seemed to me, the most of the issues we're talking about are local issues, and for example, this Tuesday, as you mentioned, the council is going to be considering joining a number of cities who are declaring themselves as pro-choice.
Yeah.
And this is a local issue. This is an issue that is germane in this city.
Oh, absolutely.
As is the war in Iraq, as is the federal government and the role of cities in the federal government, and how that and what can we as local citizens do? And we have a city council as a tool, in some ways, as a voice, as an extension of our own voice. It's a representative government.
Yeah.
So
I've always found it somehow puzzling when people separate it so much, as if our community isn't a part of these greater issues somehow.
Yeah. All politics is local, and all politics is global as well, and we need to look at everything. And it concerns people, and those are the things that bring people into the... That's what interests them.
Right.
Those people that don't know who the mayor is, are interested by these larger issues.
yeah.
Right.